Hi, welcome to the second part of this Blender Sci-Fi Space Ships tutorial. So in the second part we're going to start adding some materials to our model. So let's go ahead and open up this folder. And inside this folder we finished on version 3. So let's open up version 3. And we can see the model that we've created so far. And really what we should do is go to File, Save As, and save it as version 4. Let's save it as version 4 for now. And we're going to minimize this because we need to open up our web browser. We're going to create a new folder inside of this folder and call it HDRI. We're going to download some lighting for our scene. So let's go and open up our web browser, go to HDRI Haven. This is a great website if you want to download maps. You can donate to them, they're doing some great work, so I suggest you have a look. And we'll click on the Browse 200 here. And we'll click on the night, and I want to download this map. So I'm going to put links to these maps in the YouTube description so that you can access them as well. So let's make a little note here, and we'll add some links to these maps so you can download them. So check the YouTube description for these links. I'll download this one, and I want to download a few more. It's kind of my favorite map, this particular one. It's got some nice colors in it. I like the way it works. Let's click on outdoor. Let's try this one here. This looks pretty cool anyway. So let's download this one, and we'll add a link to that one as well. And then let's try one more. Let's do one more. Let's try something like urban. Let's see what we've got here. And the lighting in here, so if you were to select this one, you'll have a lot of red lighting in your scene. And it really depends on what you're looking for. So maybe we'll go for something like, let's see, something like this. Click on this one. It's like a TV studio. And we'll copy this link. So for all of these three maps, you'll find links in the YouTube description. And we're just going to quickly drag and drop them into this folder here. Let's close this. Let's close this. Let's open up Blender. And we'll go to the shading here. And we want to go to the world settings. If you can't see these two here, just zoom out with your mouse wheel and then zoom back in and see them. Hold down the shift key and the middle mouse button allows you to pan it around. I'm just going to zoom in here a bit to make it easier for you to see. So I'll click and drag this up here, press shift and A. So as we add objects, we can add nodes to our editor here as well. And we'll add a background, so shift A, add a background first. And then we want a mix shader and drag that here, and then we'll connect this background to here like this. Press shift and A, and we want a texture environmental. So I've done this quite a few times before. Hopefully you've learned this by now. We want to add a mapping in here as well. Let's just drag this to here, this to here. Then we want an input texture coordinates here, and then finally an input light path here. Let's zoom out a bit. We'll connect the top one here is camera ray to the factor over here on the mix shader. Then click open, go to the HDRI. Let's select these umbrella ones first. Let's go to open. We can go to our render view, and we'll see, we won't really see any lighting in here at the moment because our object doesn't have any materials. So for now, let's take the background and make it a dark grey color, something dark like this, just so we can see our ship quite clearly. And then we'll add some materials to the ship, and then we can see what the lighting looks like, and we can change the lighting as well. Let's go back to the layout, and I think the first object that we will add a material to is going to be the ship body. Let's click on the ship body, double click on this, press Ctrl C to copy, and then go down to the material here. So select the ship body, click on the material, and then paste that name in ship body. It's worth naming the materials, what you're going to be calling them for the object, and then it will be easier for you to understand what they are. And we want to set that to, we want our ship to be like a metallic grey, right? Grey color. So we'll set it to some sort of grey shade. We can adjust them after. So this is grey, the base color. Set it to grey. Then we'll set the metallic all the way up. Let's go into our render view. You can start to see that sort of grey color there. And we want to set the roughness to 0.2 like this. So that's the ship body. And then we've got the main engine, right? So let's go to the main engine, engine main, double click, copy that name. you should already be in the materials here, right? So just click new, then paste that name here, hit enter, and we want the base color to be maybe a different gray shade, right? Maybe a bit darker, something like this, and then set the metallic all the way up, and then set the roughness to 0.2. Now you can see what that's going to look like, something like this, looking pretty cool. And then we've got the engine segment 1, so let's double click that, copy that name, click new here, paste in the name, and then you can pick a different color. This time I'm going to go for a lighter color, but I want to give it a bit of a shade to it, maybe a bit darker than that. Let's see, maybe a bit of blue. I just don't want everything. I don't want them to all be this of a similar color, right? So you want a bit of difference between them. So something like this. And if you're not liking the lighting in here, if it just doesn't look quite right, what you can do is go to the shading here, click on the open button, and then check one of your other maps. So let's click on the TV Studio one and click open, and you'll see that will make quite a difference to the lighting on your model, because all of those lights in that studio, that scene, are giving the lights here on the object. And the one I prefer is the Shanghai one, so this one here, and click open. This is the one that I prefer the most, so this is the one I'm going to use, but you can use whichever one you want. When you're looking at it in the shading view, make sure you're looking at the render view here, render, not look dev, right? Make sure render's on here, and then you'll see what the lighting looks like. So I'm going to stick with this one, and you can click down here and rotate your map, and that will just change the lighting on the model. You can just rotate and experiment to see where the lighting looks good for you. I'm just going to leave it as defaults for now. Maybe we'll change the rotation later, possibly. So I think that looks pretty cool. Let's go to the layout, and we want to do the wings, right? So let's click on this top wing. Let's see, maybe we'll do, let's do this one here. This was the left wing, so let's click that, double click, copy the name, click new here and paste it. But we just want to call it ship wing, just a generic name. So just call it ship wing, because all the wings are going to be using that same material. So let's click here, and I want to make them quite dark, so not black but very dark grey, and set the metallic all the way up, and then set the roughness to 0.2. Let's see, it's just middle mouse click. Sometimes it's worth turning off the overlays, so this is the overlays, you can turn them off and you can see things a bit better. Maybe that's a bit too dark, right? So let's click here and make it a bit lighter. You can adjust it, and I think that's going to look pretty good. Yeah, I like that. So that's one wing done. So let's turn on the overlays again. Let's click on the top wing, and in this drop down all we do is select the same color. We'll click on this wing here, click on the drop down, select that same spaceship wing. You can make them all different colors if you want, but I think consistency will look better. So all the wings have the same color, and now we've got the front part here. So let's click on that. We want to go into our render view here, render settings, and set the render to 128, set the viewport to 128 for now. Let's go to file, save as, and save this as another version 5, and then we want to turn on the bloom, and in the screen space reflections we want to turn that on, and we want to turn on refractions and turn off half trace, something like this. And we want to go to the ship top, so let's double click, copy that, ship top, and go to the material. Let's click new and paste in that material, and then we want to click on the surface here, and you see all the different types of surfaces. You've got glossy ones, you've got emissions, you've got loads of different types of surfaces here, and you've got translucent and transparent, but we want to make it glass, right? We want it to be looking like glass, so let's click glass here, and in the settings here we want to turn on back face culling. In the blend mode we want to set it to alpha blend, and the shadows we want to set it to none, and then we want to turn on screen space refractions here, and then we want to set the roughness, right? So let's see, sometimes it's worth zooming in a bit, turning off the overlay so you can see things a bit clearer here, and let's see, think around here is going to be good, but we want to change the color of the glass. So let's click here, and I want to make it a, maybe we should go for blue, or so much choice. What do we choose? That's the question. Do we think red looks good? Maybe purple. You've got so much choice here, right? I might go for like, I think like a orangey yellow. Orange I think I'm going to go for, right? So I'm going to set it to orange here, like this. And I think we can adjust this a little bit, the roughness. Let's see. You don't want it to be too much. Really what I'm trying to get is to see, if we were to go inside of this here, you can see these objects inside, these parts of the panels. So when we look on the outside, you want to kind of see them there. That's what I'm aiming for. So maybe we'll set it to 1.05 here, and we can adjust the roughness a bit to something like this. I think will look good. But when you look at it, you can see the building. Can you see this building here? It's actually a building from the HDRI map. So we want to set the roughness to a point where you can't really see that building. We don't really want to see it. So somewhere around here, 0.167 and 1.05. For me, that is going to be about right. Something like that. I want to click on the ship wings on the side. So the ship wing side, let's double click, copy that, and go to new. And let's paste in that ship side, and then on the here on the principal shader, we want to set it to an emission. Let's choose that similar orange color, something around the same, and then set it to 10. And that's going to glow down the sides like this. Okay, so what I want to do is click on this engine part. Let's go to the main engine. Let's go into edit mode, and maybe we'll look at it in solid view for now. And we want to select some elements in here and give those some color as well. So what we'll do, let's see, first part we'll do is this back part here. So let's turn on our overlays and make sure you click on this little circle in the center here, right? You can see that little circle that we indented in, that one. And we want to, that's ship main engine we selected, go to the material. We want to add a new material, so click new, and then in the drop down we want to select the spaceship side here, this one, and click assign. If we go into the render view, that will now glow orange like this. Kind of want that orange glow there, like this. So to look at it from the back, it looks like there's some booster or something coming out, right? Some flames or whatever we want to call them, the engine. Let's finish off this back part here. So let's go back into solid view. Just easier to see things in solid view. In the render view, it's a bit hard to see the faces, so I like to go to solid view, select what I want, then color it, and then look at it in render view and change it if I need to. So we've got quite a lot of components in here. I was thinking it's a bit of a tedious task, but let's do this right. Let's click on this face here. So we've got the face select tool. Let's make sure we've got this select tool selected, not the inset tool, right? Select tool, and we want to click on all of these little faces here. So we have to go around the object. Again, if someone knows a quicker way of selecting just these faces, then please do tell me. I would like to know. So if you select a wrong one, just hold down the shift key and click on it again. And it didn't take too long to select them, to be fair. And we'll click on ship side here and click assign, and then we can go back to the render view. Now those parts will glow that orange color. Let's turn off the overlay and we can see that now, right? It's looking like that. I think it looks pretty cool. And we want some orange on the front of this. So let's go back into our solid view, and what I want to do is select, let's turn on our overlays. Maybe we'll select these top ones here, these three here. Let's select these three and these three here, and then we need to get to the other side. Let's go to the other side. Where is it? Hold down the shift key, right, when you're selecting them. get around to this side here, and then we'll click on spaceship side and click assign, and now we can go to the render view, and now those will shine like this as well. Let's turn off our overlays, and I think that looks pretty cool. I don't know what you think. I quite like that. I like that design. What I want to do as well is go into object mode now, and let's just go into solid view, and we're going to click on this. Let's turn on our overlays and make life a bit easier. See what we're selecting, and really what I want to do, let's see, I'm wondering if we do the inside. Maybe on those ones we'll do the outside, and these ones we'll do the inside. Maybe, let's see. Let's stick with the outside. Let's go. Actually, what we do is click on this wing here, go into the edit mode, and we need to click on the inside here, this part here, and then we need to try and get to the other part. Let's just move our camera around a little bit. This part here, so that inside part like that. So just hold down the shift key, select the one part, and then select the other part. Try and get it on an angle, and then we want to click new, and then in the drop down select spaceship side and click assign, and then that will now glow orange on the inside edge, and we want to repeat that for the other wing side. So let's click on the other side here, and let's go into edit mode. It would probably been better that we have done that job first and then copied the wing across with that material already assigned, but you know, we live and learn. It's not hard to do. Let's click that, hold down the shift key and select this side. Be quite careful what you're selecting, and then we'll click new, and then go to here, select ship side, and go ahead and click assign. Okay, let's go into object mode and turn off the overlay, and we'll see what that looks like. So now they're going to glow. So if we ever see the ship from the front, we'll see them glowing like this. And for the top ones, I was thinking about doing it on the inside, but I think it would be better to do it around the top edge. So let's click on this top one. Let's turn on our overlays, go into edit mode, and instead of selecting the inside, we're going to click on this top face here, and then select the top part here, these parts, and we'll go new, spaceship side, assign, and then we want to do the same for the bottom as well. So let's go back into object mode, let's select that wing, let's select this wing, go into edit mode, and it'll be much easier to see this in the solid view. And we can click here, hold down the shift key, click here, we'll click new on the material, click on the drop down, select that, and click assign, and then go back into object mode and go into the render view. Now we can see it like this, right? I think that looks pretty cool. So maybe it'll be worth us doing the back part of this wing. Do you think? Maybe make that orange. That might look pretty cool from the back. I reckon that'll look pretty good. Let's select the top one. Should have done that before, really. Go into edit mode, and maybe we'll just do the top part. Let's see if we can. Let's see what we're selecting here. So this is quite narrow here. Maybe we'll just select this bottom part here, and maybe just this little box. You know, this little box right here, this bit. Let's select that bit. Maybe these edges as well. So these three parts and the bottom part here. And we'll click on the ship wing here, ship side, and click assign, and that part will glow, but around the edges it won't, and I think that will look cool. So let's go back into object mode, and let's just see what that looks like. Does it look a bit iffy? I'm not convinced. Actually, it's okay, I think. Yeah, that's cool. Let's click on this one and do the same, or maybe let's just go back into edit mode. I don't like it at the top here. I think we need to select the outside parts, these parts here and here, and assign the color to that as well. And let's see what that looks like now. It's kind of got rid of that shape because it's an emission shader, but it looks okay from the side. So if we see it from the side, I think actually it looks pretty cool from the side. So I don't mind, that's actually good. So let's repeat that on the other wings. So it's a bit of a tedious task. Let's click on that, go into edit mode. And we can do this a bit quicker. Let's select this part, this part, this part. Hold down the shift key, select the top part, select the bottom part, click on the ship wing, assign, and then go back into object mode. Now quick thing, you see I keep going up here, edit mode, object mode, between them. You can just press the tab key, so you can click on this object, hit the tab key, and that will take you straight into edit mode. So that's a little tip for you, right, to save you a bit of time. Let's select this middle bit as well, click here, assign, and then press tab, and then go to the bottom one. Let's click on that one, press the tab key, select these parts, and we'll click here, assign, press the tab key. That takes us back into object mode. And have we done all of them? That was pretty quick. Okay, we did all of them. Let's see, did we do all of them? Yep. Okay, so I think it's looking pretty good. Let's try and improve it a bit more. Let's just see here. I think what we'll do is go into, let's click on the ship body here, go into edit mode, and this face here and this one here, these two faces and the ones below, so this one and this one. So we're selecting the ones at the top and the bottom. Let's click the plus sign and let's change it to the emission shader. Let's see what it looks like. Let's just turn off our overlays and we'll see, does that look right? If you don't like it, you can turn off the overlay, turn back on the overlays, click on it and just click the minus to remove it, right? It says you can't remove it while you're in actually edit mode, so you need to go back into object mode and then remove it, and then it will take it away. If you do something you don't like it, you can just go back into object mode, remove it, then go back into edit mode. Those faces should still be selected from before, and you can pick a different color. Maybe we'll go for like the purple blue sort of color. In fact, I made a mistake there. Let's see, spaceship segment 1. So really we want to do, this is ship body, so I want to select ship body, then I want to click the plus sign, and then I want to select spaceship segment 1, assign. So let's see, not sure if that worked out. Let's go back into, let's select them again. Maybe they weren't selected, I'm pretty sure they were. Let's select this one, and this one, spaceship segment 1, assign. So I think that is the color it's going to generate based on the lighting. Let's go back into object mode and see. Yeah, I think that's the color it's going to be. That's okay. Now you've got a good understanding of how to color the object, so you can do whatever you want now, right? And a nice thing about using this sort of orange color everywhere is you can go now and click on something that contains that orange, like this one here, right? The ship right wing, spaceship side. You can click here and you can change pretty much all of the colors because you use that same color everywhere. So if you don't like the orange, or you want to make another variation of it, you can quickly do that just by changing the colors here. And again, you would have to go and change the glass separately, but that's not a problem. You can change that quite quickly separately afterwards, right? So maybe we'll leave it on the orange. I think the orange is fine. Or we could go for like a purple. Maybe purple looks pretty good. Maybe, I don't know. Let's leave it on orange. We started with orange, let's leave it on that. And now we want to think about how we can animate this object, right? So we've done all the coloring. Let's go to File, Save. And really what I want you to do, so in fact, let's finish off this ship. There's a couple more things I want to do before we think about the animation part of this ship, right? So what we'll do is let's just do this last part in this tutorial. Let's press Shift A and we want to add a circle. So we've got a circle here, can't really see it. Let's press number 7 and let's drag that circle back here. Now you can see the circle here, and let's middle mouse click and rotate around, and we want to flip this circle on the green arrow, which is the Y. So let's press R to rotate, then Y, then 90. And did that not work properly? Let's click here to see. Oh, it's right, it's correct. So let's press number 3 and then number 9. So number 3 then number 9 will take you to the back view here, and I want to go into solid view so I can see that circle here, and I want to scale it down so it's the same size as this, like this booster part, right? So let's just zoom in here a bit, and let's press S to scale and scale it down so that it's a bit smaller than the booster part here, where we had that orange coming out of. Let's turn it on. You can see the orange here, right? You can see this circle. In fact, let's scale it down a bit more so that it's a little bit smaller. If you can see that, but it's just a little bit smaller now than the orange part. Probably scale it out, yeah, to around here should be good. And right now it's sitting away from the object, right? It's sitting here, that's fine. It's been selected, so it's called circle. Let's call this let's give it a good name, right? So let's call it particle. Let's call it a particle emitter. So this will be a particle emitter, and we want to drag it. Before we drag it, let's go into edit mode, face, and then fill the face. So now it's got fill face on there. Let's go back into object mode, and we want to drag this so that it sits inside the engine. So let's press number 3. In fact, let's press number 1. Number 1 will take us into the right orthographic, and let's go to our wireframe, and then we just want to drag this so that it sits inside here somewhere. So if we turn on the overlays, turn back onto render view, shall I say, you can see it sitting there, but it's not far enough. So in fact, we can just put it at this sort of angle, grab the red arrow and drag it back so that we see orange. When you see orange, you're good to go, right? So it needs to be behind this orange object, because we're going to emit particles, but we don't want to see the white. Now what we'll do is click on the particle system here and click new, and just call this engine en particles, and then click the play button, and we see these particles dropping out. So we don't really, it's not very impressive, is it? Got these particles dropping out like this, and we want them to be boosting out, like flying out at quite a pace. So to do that, what we need to do is we'll leave the settings as they are for now. We might adjust them afterwards slightly. Let's just file save, and the velocity we want to set it to 0. So now they just drop straight down, there's no velocity. And we want to turn on the let's see, in the field weights we want to turn off the gravity. Now those particles will actually stick to the objects. You can't really see that, but they're sticking. They're not moving. They're being generated, but they're not moving at all. Let's set our numbers to around 5,000, and then what we want to do is create let's double click and copy this particle emitter name. Let's press Shift A and insert a force field wind, and let's grab that wind. So to grab it, we need to pause the video so that we can see the move tool options. We'll grab the red arrow and drag it across. We want to rotate this so the arrows are pointing in this direction. So that will be on the, which axis? That will be on the green axis, is the Y. So on the Y axis rotation, we want to rotate it -90. So now the arrows are pointing this way. And nice thing to do is just drag it back so it sits around the booster like this. It won't be rendered, but it's just telling us we want some wind to affect these particles. So if we click play now, you can see the particles are flowing out this way, but they're not flowing very far. So let's click on this field wind, and we call this particle let's call it particle wind. In fact, we should call it field wind, right? It's a field and it's wind, that's what it is. Let's go to its physics settings here, and we can increase its strength to make them flow faster. Let's set it to around 15. Now they're flowing pretty far. We don't want them to flow that far, so to stop them from flowing that far, we can click on the particle emitter, go to its settings, and we can reduce its lifetime. Right now it's saying these particles will be in the viewport or rendered for up to 50 frames, and we want to set this to something like 20 frames. And if we set it now, you can see it shortens down, right? So we want a booster thing going out, but we don't want them to be so far. Something around here I think will be good, You can just adjust this. If you want them to be further out, then just adjust it. You can set it to some stupid number like, I don't know, 90 or something, and they'll flow really, really far. But you don't want them to flow that far. That's just crazy. So let's set it to like 10, maybe even a bit further than that. 20 it was, right? 20. 20 is good. And they're flowing out, but they're quite, it's just like a, almost like a square shape, right? You can see the shape of them like this, and we don't really want that. We want to improve that. So let's pause this and let's press Shift A, and we can insert something called a vortex. Let's grab that vortex and move it forward. Let's move it to around here so we can see it. And we're going to rotate that on the y-axis minus 90 as well. So minus 90, let's just click out. Yep, that's correct. And we want to drag that to where the wind is. Maybe just, yeah, somewhere around there where the wind is, something like this. And then we'll click play. And now our particles have vortex applied to them. Let's pause it, go to the first frame and click play. And now the particles are spinning. Let's see, something weird is happening here. Okay, so when you start adding a lot of different things to the to this render, sometimes you have to go and bake the particles, or let's just save it and click play. Really, there's not much going on here, so it shouldn't really do that, to be fair. But let's try and bake the particles. Let's click on particles here. This one is called field. What was it called? Field Vortex, so VORTEX, Vortex. Let's name these, because when you look for them later, it'll be easier to find. And in theory, if we go to the particle emitter and go to the cache here and bake it, we shouldn't need to do that, but now you can see they're flowing properly, right? You know, you haven't got that gap there. It's a bit strange that we need to bake it. It's quite a basic simulation, but anyway, let's go to the vortex settings, vortex here, and we want to increase the vortex. Let's increase it slightly. We might have to remove our bake, so that's a bit strange, right? So let's go to the emitter and let's delete the bake, and now you can see it spinning. Maybe we have to bake it at least once, but now you can see the vortex taking effect, the way this is shaped, and we want to shape it a bit better. So let's go back to the vortex, and you just reduce it or increase it. I want to kind of get it to somewhere around here, where it's like fat at the end and thinning out, right? Like that. That's kind of how I want it to be. And you can adjust it and play around with it. You can change the inflow as well. That kind of reduces. It's kind of another way to change how far the particles move. So maybe we'll set it to around minus 0.6 and 2.1 here, and I'll leave you to play around with that. Now in the render, if we were to render this out, the particles actually won't render, because we're using almost like a placeholder object. So when we go to the emitter and go to its settings, you'll see it in here. Underneath the render, it's using halos, right? So you can choose like lines, other objects, and they just won't render out. So we need to create some particles for Blender to render them. So let's press Shift and A and insert a UV sphere. Let's just drag that up a little bit. Let's just move it across to around here, and we want to duplicate this. So before we duplicate it, where is it? It's called sphere down here. Let's call this particle 1. So we'll call it particle 1. Click on it, press Shift and D, and then drag that one to the side, and then press Shift and D again and drag it to the side. So we've got 3 of them. Let's click on this second one, and it's called particle 001. Let's call it particle 2, and then call this last one particle 3. Let's click on this one, select it, go to the material, and want to give it a color. So let's click new, double click on the name particle here, copy it, paste that into here, go here and select emission, because we want it to glow. The particles want them to glow, and we'll set this to around, let's set it to around 10 as well, and we'll choose like I want to choose like a red color, like a dark orange. Select this one, it's called particle 2, so click new here, paste it and change it to 2. Click here, go to emission, set it to 10, and then this one I want to make it a bit more like a similar sort of orange to the ship body here. And then let's click on particle 3, click new, click here, change it to particle 3, go to the surface, change it to emission, set it to 10, and we'll choose a lighter orange or like a yellowy sort of color. And we can adjust these after if they don't look right. So let's zoom out, click on all three of these, let's select them, 1, 2 and 3, so we select all of them, let's drag them up a little bit so they're out of the way. Let's drag them up a bit more because then they won't affect the lighting down here. And we want to create a collection, a new one. So let's click on this scene collection, right click, new, and then you'll get a new collection down here called collection 2. Call these particles. Let's call it this collection particles with an S. And select the first one, hold down the shift key and select the other 3, and then drag them into this collection. Now make sure they're sitting inside, right? So if you minimize, you won't see them. If you maximize them, you'll see them here. These 3. Now we'll go back to our particle emitter here. Let's select it. Go to the particle settings, and inside of the render, we can now select collection, and we want it to render out the collection we just created here called particles. So when we see here instance of collection or instant collection, we see particles here. We'll click that, and now you can see them glowing. We can turn off the overlay. Let's in fact go to our shading and click here and make it a bit darker, almost make it close to black, and then click layout, and now we can go back to the first frame and play it, and now we've got these red particles flowing out, right, like this, something like this. And we can play around with the settings. If we don't quite like that, we can go to the Vortex and we can go to the physics, and we can change the strength here. You can change it so it's like almost like a vortex. Would make sense. You can play around with it to see what sort of pattern or shape you want to create. Kind of want it to be pointed at the end. One other thing you can do, in fact, let's set it back to where it was roughly. It's 2 point something, right? 2.1. What else we can do is go to the particle emitter, go to the particle settings, and in the scale, we can scale them all, or we can set random scale. So now some of them will be small and some will be large, and we can pick random colors here as well. So now it will have some randomization of the particle colors, and some of the balls will be small and some of them will be large. So that's another way to affect how it looks. And you could add a turbulence in here as well. So let's try and add that, and if we don't like it, we'll remove it. So let's go to our render view, or turn on the overlays, pause it, and press Shift A, and we want to insert another force field called turbulence, which will be here. Let's click that and drag it back to around here. And I don't think, let's see, it's a little bit hard to see this. Let's move it here. Now, I'm pretty sure the rotation of the turbulence doesn't matter too much. So, but the location of it does matter. So let's move it to where our particles are, around here. And let's go back and click play. And we'll, where is it called? Where is this thing gone? Right. So when we added that turbulence, it added, because we was working with the particles last, it added it here, the field, turbulence. We don't want that, so drag it to the top collection here, and it will sit here, and we're going to name it field TUR for turbulence. And we should really click on this collection here. When you click on this one, any new objects you add will be added to this one. We can really minimize this particles collection here and make sure we click on the top one here. And anything new you add will be added to this collection. So this field turbulence allows us to give some turbulence to the particles. And let's see. Let's go crazy, right? So rather than it being a straight line, you can kind of change its direction here. But we might give it a little bit of turbulence, maybe not too much, around 3.8. Let's see what it looks like from here. It's kind of going off at an angle. Let's press number 3 and then number 9. We can actually see it right from the back and see what's going on. So we set this really high, you can see where it's going all the way up there somewhere. Let's reduce it. Let's set it to something crazy like 20, because it's obviously going to have a big effect on it, right? And what will be interesting is if we grab the turbulence, let's see, field turbulence. Let's press G to grab it and then press X. So G to grab, then X. If we move it, we can, if we're actually animating and if we actually were to move the turbulence, let's press G to grab then X. We can kind of like move it backwards and forwards and get this sort of flame sort of thing going on. So we could animate that part there if we wanted to. If we move it quite far away, let's see, let's press maybe around here looks pretty good. It's for you to experiment with. I'll leave you to experiment with that turbulence. Maybe it's a bit too high. Let's set it to like around 10, something like this. It's kind of changed quite a few things in here, but I think I'm not quite convinced I like it. So if you don't like it, you can just set it to 0. Then it won't have any effect on it, right? Now it would just be the original sort of booster because it has no effect, this turbulence, if it's set to 0. Sometimes you have to delete something, just set it to a null value like 0 in here, turn its strength off, and then it won't affect anything. So let's click on it again, let's press G to grab it, then X, and we'll move it back to its original location, and we'll leave it there, and maybe we can experiment with that a bit later. So we finished off quite a lot. We added some color in here. There's one other thing I wanted to try. I'm not sure how well it will work. I did this in another tutorial where we created some sort of how would I call it, scuffed, sort of like a scuffed material. So I want to try that in this tutorial. I want to click on this wing at the top here, and let's pause this. I'm not sure how well this will work, but let's try. Let's zoom quite close to it. Let's go into the shading, and let's go into the object data, and let's just zoom in here on this wing. So I'm going to try and add like a scuffed sort of metal effect to it. So when we click on here, we have to go to the material, let's see, and click on the ship wing here. Make sure you click on that one because that's the material I want to affect, not the highlight, but this main ship wing. And inside the shader here, let's try this. I don't know how well it will work, but we'll try. Let's press Shift A and add a bump map. Let's go to vector bump here, and let's zoom out a little bit down here. Connect the normal to the normal here, and then we'll press Shift A and we want to add a noise texture. So let's add a noise texture. Where is noise here? And then we want to add Shift A and a Musgrave texture. So the factor, we want to connect it to the vector here, and then we want to connect the factor here to the height here. And let's see if we can get this to work. So we want to set the scale, I don't know how well this will work, but we'll set the scale to 0.6, so you kind of get that sort of metallic effect, right? Something like this. And then we'll set the detail to 2.2, and we'll set the, we'll leave this as it is. Pretty much everything else we'll leave as default. Then the scale here we're going to set it to 1.1, and the detail here we're going to set it to 7.8. and let's see, maybe we'll reduce that a bit. This is kind of how I had it set up before. Let's see, let's set that back to 7.8, and then the strength over here we'll set that to 0.077, so it makes it more subtle. And then the distance we'll set it to 4.8. Let's see, now we kind of got this sort of brush metal effect, right? It's not quite right, but I think it's getting there. Let's see, let's go back to our layout and see what it looks like, if we like it. I think it looks interesting, but it's not quite right, is it? So let's go back into our shading and let's see. I think at minus 0.1, I think it looks much better. Now it looks like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. I like that. So we've got this brush metal effect just by using the node editor here, right? Just like this. I think that looks much better. Adds a bit of texture to the material, and it's not kind of just the basic material now. Let's turn off our overlays and have a look. So as the light shines across it, you can kind of see looks more like metal now, right? With this brush metal effect on it. And you could apply the same thing to the body if you wanted to. Kind of leave it as it is. I think we're in a pretty good place to think about the animation, finishing that off in part 3 of this tutorial. So in the first part we built the model. In the second part we added all of these materials and we created the particle emitter here. So in the third part of this tutorial I want to animate this object, and we'll think about that. We'll do the animation on the fly. We'll just think about how we're going to animate. But probably with these engine parts we want to spin them, and maybe the wings, they'll kind of fold out or do something. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll have to think about that. And then maybe we'll create another part of this tutorial where we'll actually fly this spaceship. But if you just want to learn how to make a model, then really you're done with this tutorial. You've learned how to make the model, but if you want to animate it a bit more, join me in part 3. So let's go to File, Save As, and save this as version 6. We'll pause this here. We'll close this down, and join me in part 3, where we'll create some more animation elements on this sci-fi spaceship.